Please stand and salute the flag at this time.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As with notice of the meeting to be held by the Township Board of Education on Tuesday, October 16, 2018 at 8 p.m. has been provided in accordance with the requirements of Chapter 231 Public Law 1975. Notice of the meeting is posted in the Bulletin Board of Vermont Administration Building 163, Monmouth Road, Oakhurst, New Jersey, all Ocean Township District Schools, and Transportation and the School District websites on September 28, 2018. Notice of the meeting is transmitted to the Asbury Park Press on September 28, 2018, and to the Coaster newspaper on September 28, 2018. Notice the meeting was filed with the Municipal Clerk, Township of Ocean, and the Municipal Clerk of Village of Mount Barbara on September 28, 2020. Mr. Janwell, kindly call the roll.
Mr. Clayton. Here. Mr. Dietrich.
Here.
Ms. Fuller.
Here.
Mr. Haddon.
Here.
Dr. Marshall.
Here.
Mr. McGovern.
Here.
Ms. Parlamas.
Here.
And Mr. Palutis.
Here.
We have 8 members present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. This time we'll have our administrative report. We'll start with Dr. Stefanikis and the superintendent report.
We have a student representative.
So sorry.
The red button.
So, our boys varsity soccer team, their season just ended with 12 wins and 3 losses. They won their division and now they're moving on to short conference. Their first short conference game is tomorrow and they'll possibly make states. Our football team has 3 wins and 4 losses, and this Friday they're playing Neptune. Our cross-country teams both have 4 wins and 3 losses, and tomorrow they'll be competing in the Monmouth County Relays, Monmouth County Championship. Our field hockey team has a record of 8, 3, and 2, and they're second in their division currently. Right now we just started up Big Red Friday again, and this is when students wear red to show school spirit, and while they're in lunch in the cafeteria they can enter to win a prize to show school spirit, and teachers can also enter this too. So You Can Think You Can Dance is October 17th, which is tomorrow at 7, and students just took the PSAT on October 10th. Currently we have the food drive, which is sponsored by the Key Club, and they're hosting this township food drive, and students can bring non-perishable items to their homerooms where the food drive boxes are. And the homeroom with the most non-perishable items will receive a Dunkin' Donuts breakfast. Also, we have Coffee House in the cafeteria at 6 p.m. on October 25th. And this is when students can showcase their talents, such as musical talents or anything in the arts. And there will also be a free college planning workshop at Brookdale Community College in Lincroft, and this will be at 6 to 8:30 p.m. at the Student Center on Tuesday, October 23rd.
Thank you very much. Sorry for guiding you there, but appreciate you giving us that readout. Now it's over to Dr. Stefanikis.
My report will not nearly be as exciting, I'm afraid to say. So primarily my report this evening is a report on the incidents of violence and vandalism that took place during the 2017-18 school year. Each year, the third week of October, it's designated as School Violence Awareness Week, and it's very traditional that during this time that we present out to the public and to the board and to the public the incidents that occurred. And of course, these are all incidents that are required to be reported to the Department of Education. That gets reported in the summer. The department ultimately puts out that report to the public, but we usually present that information before it's released from the Department of Education. So I think there were copies of this report in the back. If not, we can certainly, if there's not enough, we can certainly provide extra copies if need be. So what I basically do is give a comparison of last year's numbers to the prior year. So for example, in the areas, and these are all designations set forth by the Department of Education. So we don't make up these classifications. The department provides that for us. So The first area, for example, is violence, and that includes fights and assaults. So last year we had 14 incidents, and this is in all of our schools combined. That's up from 9 the previous year, so an increase of 5 there. In the area of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or HIB, we had 8 confirmed incidents last year. That was down 1 from 9 the year before. I'm happy to say that there were no incidents of vandalism in the district, and that was the case for the last 2 years. In terms of weapons, and weapons usually would refer to a knife or a firearm, I'm happy to say there were no firearms, but we did have 1 weapon incident in the district last year, and that was up from 0 the year before. In terms of substance abuse, there were 5 incidents of substance abuse related to, in comparison to 2 the year before that. So those are the categories of instances that we report on. So overall, our numbers are low. They're higher. Of course, we would love for these all to be 0. But unfortunately, in getting thousands of teenagers together, it's very rare that you're not going to have some incidents that occur. We work and strive towards all 0s. It's a testament to our administration, to our staff, all those who work hard every day to make sure that we provide all of our kids with a positive example, that they're developing, a positive moral compass to, conduct themselves appropriately in our schools. And I think the overwhelming vast majority of our students do that. Unfortunately, there are incidents that arise every day, and then we work to address those situations. So I'm happy to answer any questions if the board or any members of the public have any questions on the violence and vandalism report.
Does the substance music with vaping?
At this point, it does not. That's a separate category of tobacco, unless there would be a reason to suspect that what's in an e-cigarette may be a controlled substance, in which case, if there's that reasonable suspicion, we may call for a drug test, and obviously if that then comes back positive, then the answer would be yes. But just in and of itself, vaping would not fall under substance abuse. That's a very good question. Other questions on that? Mr. Ryan.
Hi.
Mr. Ryan.
Just the section D, where there's offenders and victims.
Yes.
I'm noticing in both cases the numbers are considerably higher. In
Yes.
those cases, are these repeat offenders or are they individuals?
They can be repeat. They could be repeat offenders or repeat victims.
Okay, so one person could technically be racking up all 38.
Theoretically, yes.
All right, sure. Let's hope.
I don't think that's the case here, but theoretically, yes. And that's how it's reported out, yes. That's how it doesn't, those are not necessarily 38 different offenders. Just 38, in almost incidents that there were 38 offenders within those incidents.
Okay.
So you could have, one person could have done 3 incidents and could have been counted 3 times.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. That concludes that report, so thank you very much for that, and I'll pass it back.
Thank you very much. Following are a series of motions to be read by the committee chairpersons. All motions have been discussed at recent public working sessions. Some motions have been approved at the public working sessions, and the minutes from the approved items are on the back table. All motions are posted on the bulletin board in the rear of the auditorium, or on the table here this evening, along with reference lists of attachments. At this point in the meeting, we will now conduct the first of 2 public comment sessions. The first public comment session is open for public comments on agenda items only. The second session will be at the end of the meeting and can be on any topic. Would anyone from the public at this time like to make a comment on any agenda items only? Yes.
Action items 5.3 policies and regulations.
And not to interrupt you, I know who you are, but will you just for the
Oh, I'm
public
sorry,
record?
I'm Cindy White. You need to know where I live.
Yes.
In Oakhurst.
Thank you.
Policies and regulations, seclusion and restraint. I see that there were some amendments made to last week's meeting and things that we had discussed, and I have some additional questions on the new policy. So the first one is, why did we put in our policy APSSD, which stands for Approved Private Schools? Why are we recommending a seclusion and restraint policy? Is that a risk management issue? Because the private schools that I know of have their own, and when children are transferred there, they abide by that school's policy?
So why are we having this policy?
No. Why are we including
Ms. Zona, I'll defer to you on that if you don't mind. It's regulations part, right? That's what
But the DOE says that every school has to have their own. So we're including it in ours, and I'm not really clear why.
Is it a clarification for just on the bus?
No.
It's not? I don't have to look at, but this is the policies, many of our policies do make that clarification that while they're on
Yeah.
our
Actually,
buses-
this has nothing about busing, which was another question. But I'll be happy to share my Martha. I don't know, guide you to those points specifically. There is I got my pages turned in, excuse me. The title of the policy is now seclusion techniques. Last week we talked about us not having a seclusion policy or seclusion rooms in any of our schools. Now it talks about techniques, and we left a very vague statement about who's we think might train us, the type of company, but again, we didn't talk about the time frame for training, and we didn't talk about who it is that we would be outsourcing. So again, I have to say, how can we approve a policy and a procedure without having a time frame for training in there?
Well, once again, it's the board's job to initiate policy and to pass policy. Then it becomes an administrative function to work out those details. So as the policy gets approved, we then administratively work out those details.
Right, but we've had this policy in effect since 2016. We just are revising it now, but we still never trained our people.
It's an area that we have to improve upon, no doubt about it.
Right, so my fear again, and I ask the board to please take this into consideration when voting, is if you're approving this policy, it allows our children to be restrained physically or put into a seclusion environment without anybody being trained. I don't know where the higher risk is.
Yeah, realize that typically, and following up too, restraint is not really procedurally something that occurs very often in our district. It's not really our practice to use restraint on a regular basis. It would really be an extreme situation where there'd be, a threat of injury, self-injury, or some other type of injury, and seclusion, and same with seclusion. It's really not something that we employ. So, that being said, the policy is still mandated by the Department of Education to have.
Right.
So, part of, what we talk about is moving forward. We were just in our work session talking about this particular situation, talking about a plan moving forward for training that Ms. Zona is currently developing. And because we certainly recognize that that's an area that we are lacking. So, so that's in the process. The second part of your question, I'm not exactly sure how to best answer it other than to say that, the policy's in place with the board, and then it's ultimately our job administratively to kind of hash out how it's carried out procedurally.
As a stakeholder, I get that and I agree. As a parent of a child that this policy specifically applies to, I don't. I have some other questions. Item number 2, student is not restrained in the prone position unless the primary care physician authorizes it. Are all the parents in the district going to be notified to exercise that option? Are we going to notify every single parent that unless you get a note from your doctor, we're not going to restrain your child in the prone position?
Well, once again, I think those are things that we have to work out administratively. I think what I would recommend, if I may, Cindy, is I think these are great questions. I'm not trying to minimize your question in any way. I think that's great. I think what I would recommend is that you contact Ms. Zona and go through.
Are you open to that? Okay,
Yeah.
great. I would love
Because I think that would really,
a lot of gaps in here.
Yeah.
So again, I ask that before you take it under advisement and vote on it tonight, I also printed out extra copies of the DOE and the federal government's restraint and seclusion resource document that I'll be happy to leave with you guys. Thank you.
Any other questions on agenda items? Thank you. At this time, we're going to do our action items. Approval of minutes. Madam Vice President.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes in accordance with the Board of Education bylaws number 0168, recording of board meetings for work meeting and executive session minutes dated October 9th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Janaro?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you. Approval of bills, Mrs. Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the approval of the following paid items as detailed below that total $6,290,183.81. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Clayton? Yes. Mr. Dietrich?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Hatton?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Parlamas?
Yes.
And Mr. Palutis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Apologize for last time. Policy and regulations, Mr. Janaro.
Okay, the board has before them policy 1613 with the regulation, policy 5512 with the associated regulation, and also 5561. It was just discussed, and regulation 5561, and policy 8561 and policy 9202. All policies have been discussed and had 2 readings, 2 separate workshop meetings with discussion on all of them, and tonight is looking for final approval. And of course, just to mention any changes that could be made or would be made could go to the next month, 2 readings, and then policy could be amended. So I just wanted to mention that. So it just takes a first and then a second to move the policies forward.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Thanks, Stephen.
Nobody's going to second my motion? Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Love you.
We have a second for the motion to move the policies forward.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Clayton.
Okay, Mr. Clayton.
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich.
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller.
Yes, with the understanding that the concerns regarding 5561 will be addressed.
Mr. Hatton.
Yes.
Dr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern.
No to policy and regulation 5561, yes to everything else.
Mr. Parlamas.
I'm going to say yes to everything except for policy number 5561.
And that was a no.
That was a no.
And Mr. Palutis.
Yes.
Okay, so all the policies pass, and 5561 passes with a 6-2 vote.
Thank you, Mr. Janaro. Financial management and resource services, Mrs. McGovern.
Yes, I have 15 items tonight. Number 1, following resolution certifies that the budget balances at the end of September were adequate to pay all remaining balances of the 18-19 school year, and the account groupings required by the state have adequate balances. The board is also certifying that the independent reports of the treasurer and the business office are in agreement. Number 2, the following motion is to transfer monies from one account in the budget to another to provide the adequate balances referred to in the first motion. Number 3, I move to approve the following security drills for the month of September 2018 as listed. 4, I move to approve the comprehensive maintenance plan as per NJAC 6:24 and the annual maintenance budget amount per NJAC 6:26-12.1 as per attached. Number 5, move to approve the cooperative bid award for 2018-19 for number 2 fuel oil, ultra low sulfur, diesel fuel, and gasoline through the Hunterdon County Educational Service Commission as attached. Number 6, I move to approve authorizing the administration to submit for the Department of Education Advanced Computer Science Grant to expand student access to high-quality advanced computer science education. Grant period will be from January 15th, 2019 to June 30th, 2020, and the grant award will be in the amount of $100,000. Number 7, move to approve the following salary percentages to be charged off to the Elementary and Secondary Education Act grant application for year 2019, school year 18-19. This notification is required under ESEA compliance regulations as listed. Number 8, move to approve a contract for behavioral monitoring and consultant services with Behavior Therapy Associates services to be provided for a special education elementary student. Total anticipated cost for 7 full-day consultations to be paid throughout the 2018-19 academic year is $10,200. Number 9, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation joint share agreement with Long Branch Board of Education with the Township Board of Education to act as the host as follows to the Shore Center for Autism. Number 10 is blank, so I will come back. Number 11, move to approve the Township of Ocean School District in a transportation joint share agreement with Long Branch Board of Education with the Township of Ocean Board of Education to act as the following to their destination of Mast. Number 12 is move to approve the Ocean Township District in a transportation joint share agreement with Shore Regional Board of Education with to act as the host to rugby school. 13 is to move to approve to enter in a transportation joint share agreement with Deal Board of Education to Class Academy. 14 is moved to approve Township of Ocean School District in a transportation joint share agreement with Monmouth Regional to the Aberdeen Matawan Vocational School. Number 15 is moved to approve the use of facilities according to the attached list of October 16th, 2018. And Ken, is there a number 10 that I'm missing?
It does not look like there's a number 10, so it would be 1 through 9 and 11 through 15 for the vote.
May I please have a second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Parlamas?
Yes.
And Mr. Palutis?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mrs. McMillan. Instruction, education, and student activities.
Excuse me. The vote, for the record, you said was 6 to 2, it was 5 to 3.
I believe the one vote was yes, contingent.
Okay, so
Right, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Did I get that right, or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, there was a
Okay. No, I make mistakes.
That's right.
Thank you.
Dr. Marshall?
Thank you. I have 5 motions for consideration this evening. Item number 1 is a motion to approve the district's out-of-school suspension report for the month of September 2018. Item number 2 is a motion to approve the attached memo dated October 11th, 2018 regarding staff professional development activities. Item number 3 is a motion to approve a student observer for the 2018-19 school year in accordance with the attached memo dated October 11th, 2018. Item number 4 is a motion to approve the 2017-2018 school grade reports for self-assessment for determining HIB grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, copies attached. And item number 5 is a motion to affirm the following harassment, intimidation, and bullying incident summary reports for the 2018-19 school year. This is HIB report number 1, presented October 9th, and HIB report number 2, presented October 16th, 2018. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Janarum?
Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich?
Yes.
Ms. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Ms. McGovern?
Yes.
Mr. Parlamas?
Yes.
And Mr. Palutis?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Negotiations, Mr. Haddon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just an update on where we're at in negotiations. We have another mediation session with the negotiations committee and the TOEA scheduled for next Thursday, the 25th. It's our second meeting with the mediation with the mediator. I'm hopeful that things will go well. I talked to Mr. Riley already. I'll be bringing a lot of coffee in the hopes that we'll be talking late into the night. I hope to get something done, but I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haddon. Personnel, Madam Vice President.
Yes, I have 3 motions this evening. First, I'd like to move to approve the retirement of Mary Ann Kronitz, head custodian at Wanamassa Elementary, effective January 1st, 2019. Second, I'd like to move to approve Lisa Kikuchi and Lisa Hanna as co-varsity club advisors at the high school for the upcoming year. in accordance with the attached memorandum dated October 11th, 2018. And number 3, I'd like to move to approve credit reimbursement for courses completed during the spring and summer 2018 in accordance with the attached list dated October 4th, 2018. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jannering, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Parlamas?
Yes.
And Mr. Palutis?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Public Relations, Mr. Dietrich.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have one item for this evening. Move to approve the Board of Education goal and objectives for the 2018-2019 school year. Do we have any discussion? Okay, Mr. General, please call the roll.
Do we have a second? I'm sorry.
Yep. Second?
Who's that? Mr. McGovern?
Amy. Yes.
Okay, goals and objectives, Mr. Clayton?
Yes.
Mr. Dietrich?
Yes.
Mrs. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Dr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Parlamas?
Yes.
And Mr. Palutis?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. At this time, is there any old business before the board? Is there any new business before the board? At this time, I'd like to invite the public, if they have any comments, please come on up, grab a microphone, identify yourself, so we can get it on record.
Hi, I'm Cindy White.
And where do you live?
I live in Oakhurst. One quick question I have. There was a comment made last night about Wayside PTA buying new playground equipment this year. I don't know if there's truth to it or not, but my question is, so that we don't run into an obstacle later on, are we making sure that it is handicapped accessible equipment? And that's it. Just wanted to put that out there.
I think it was, they said it was from Wayside. It was a comment from one of the candidates. It wasn't an official board.
No, it wasn't, but
It
I
wasn't.
don't want us to be in a position later where we have to modify something.
No problem. Just to be clear, it wasn't, that was
No,
not,
I know.
that was not a board.
I
meeting.
understand.
That is from a candidate. Thank you.
Would you like Ms. Blaya to answer it? She was involved in the design of the equipment. If you're...
So there is equipment. Okay.
Sorry.
Our representative, Mr. Nowak, has made sure that what we have is compatible for all students. We have special swings even in our kindergarten playgrounds as well as our bigger playground out there. So we're hoping it comes up soon so we can certainly see what it looks like. But yes,
Great.
we made sure that it was handicapped.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pillay.
Good evening, everybody. Susan Green, I live in Bayside. My question relates to the bullying policy. When a student is caught bullying within the confines of a school day, what's the procedure, especially if there was a HIB violation? So to say, the policy in the handbook is not clear. Are they to be released to their parents? Are they to be let home on the bus for their own safety? That's the first part of the question. The other one is as it relates to the electronic devices. If there was one used in an incident, should that be confiscated? Should that be handed over to the police? Again, the procedure is not, it alludes to, but it doesn't quite outline what the sequence of events would happen. And lastly, now that we have school-issued Chromebooks, if a student is found to have used an electronic device to bully another student, is there any provision in our policy to revoke their privilege of using the school-issued Chromebook? Because could be used to perpetuate, even if parents did take their own electronics away, perpetuate any situation.
To your first two questions, the HIP policy in and of itself would probably not address those specific issues. That would be more, I think, of an administrative decision based on the circumstances of what might occur at that particular, based on any particular incident that occurs. So, the HIP policy is not going to outline the student would take a bus home or not take a bus home, or collect the phone or not collect the phone, or what have you. Incidents that arise would require us contacting police if it falls within the memorandum of agreement that we have with Ocean Township Police Department. So once again, the HIP policy doesn't dictate that. Our memorandum of agreement would dictate that. Once again, that depends on the circumstances of what the exact situation was. In terms of the Chromebook, we have a very specific policy, and students sign an acceptable use policy that if they are using their Chromebook in the capacity to which you described, then absolutely that would become a violation of the policy, and we could act accordingly. That may result, depending on what happens, in the student, losing the Chromebook. Sure. And Susan, I would say, if I don't mind calling Susan, if there's specific situations you'd like to discuss, then you can discuss those with either building administration, or I'm happy to discuss them with you as well.
But as far as it relates to the Chromebook, so if a student is, let's say, using an electronic device to commit something, even if they sign an agreement about their Chromebook, is there any provision that IT would monitor their Chromebook for any suspicious activity? I mean,
we don't really make a point of monitoring students, particularly when they're outside. I mean, when they're on our network, there are firewalls that obviously prevent students from accessing certain sites. Of course, students have become very good at getting around some of those firewalls. When they're off campus and they're not on our network and they're accessing their own network, then we have a little bit less control. That doesn't mean they can do anything they want. So if they do engage in using our Chromebooks to, like the example you gave earlier, where maybe they use that for cyberbullying or something like that, then there are multiple policies that are potentially violated at that time. One, potentially the HIP policy, another also the acceptable use policy.
Can I follow up to this? So I wasn't clear. If they did break a law, and we are giving them a Chromebook to take home with them, and they violated the acceptable use policy, do we take away that Chromebook?
That could be one thing that occurs. It depends on the violation. Depends on what they do.
Well, if a crime was committed, I mean.
Well, it's the police's determination as to whether a crime has been committed, not
Right.
ours. But based on our handbook, based on the policy, if the offense was serious enough, then yes, that is absolutely something that could happen.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Sure. Any other public comment at this time? I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Just really in this crowd, I was waiting for an applause afterwards.
It's not bad. I'm going to suggest we go here all the time. We can fit so many more people, and they're so much more comfortable that they don't actually make comments. They're all so happy. No. Honestly, no.
I know.
I am. I admit it. Good night.
Right? You do.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in the office.